I'm Yavi Mudurai. I'm from the African Prosperity Fund. I'm a proud Pan-Africanist. There is no such thing, for me, there is no such thing as coming from a country of Africa, because you land in Kenya and they say welcome home. It doesn't matter where you are from, because Africa is home. So in terms of the panel that has just been, or that I've just moderated, I think, so first of all, it was a heavy topic. It was trade and how trade agreements and the challenges and the opportunities within the context of that. So it's always a challenge to be able to make something so heavy interesting. Okay, aside from the fact also that unfortunately we had 3/4 of our panel online and we had difficulties with digital and all of those kind of things. However, it showed the capacity of us to be able to connect, like Peter pointed out. So Peter from SADC Business Council pointed out that, look, we are across nations, where, it depends on where everyone is sitting. We're sitting across nations, but because of digitalization, we are able to all give a perspective on trade purely because of digitalization. So if we take that as kind of the segue into the panel itself. So we need to really start valuing regional value chains. And when a company will have a strategy, mainly a global strategy, if not a local strategy. So if you think about it, a South African company, their first aspect is to think, how can I sell to South Africans? And then the next will be, how can I export to? And generally it will be outside of the continent's borders. With this particular panel and discussion that we've just had, this is about how do we have a regional strategy? How do we sell to our neighbors, in terms of SADC? Within the SADC region, how do we sell it into our neighbors just beyond the SADC region? But also, how do we sell across the continent if you think about something like the AFCFTA that is now coming into being? So all of a sudden, you have there's 16 countries within SADC, there's 54 signatories to the AFCFTA. How do we get companies to see the value of, I've got 54 countries that I can sell to on the African continent? We never need to go beyond just Africa. And lastly, everyone beyond Africa wants to be here. They want to come and sell to us. They want to be part of the African agenda. What do we want to do? We want to go somewhere else. So it's time we truly started valuing our continent. It's 1.4 billion people that everyone else wants access to. We are Africans. We are Africa. We are right here. This is our market. We don't need to go anywhere else. This is our market. So from a trade perspective, how do we now start to look at making things easier? And the most important thing, I think, is how do we act? How do we create a value proposition around effort? How do we do, as opposed to talk, and more talk? So I think for me, that was the most insightful part of the panel, is that we did speak a lot about the things that are, but every panelist spoke about the things that are happening, the things that have been achieved, the things that are yet to come, and the things that will be achieved. For me, that was the most important thing. So for me, it's a matter of how do we now start becoming action-oriented and effort-based. So how many things have come out of these conferences? How many boxes can we tick in order to be able to say, we sat there, we spoke there, we did whatever there. However, this is what has been achieved, this is what happened. I want to end off by just saying to you, the EU, when they unionized, they integrated, their regional integration of their continent, happened at the same time that they decolonized, technically, from Africa. They call it, it's on their website, they call it the swinging 60s, and not that swinging 60s, but they call it the swinging 60s. Between 1960 and 1969, all the wealth that we see of the European Union today, decades later, was consolidated in a period of 9 years. 9 years, because it was action and effort-based. And they were strategic, they sat down and they ticked off boxes. How do we get to that point with the AFCFTA being there? How do we get to the point where we can say 10 years, 20 years, 15 years, whatever it may be? How do we get to that point and we say, we had our own revolution, our own economic revolution, and we got to the point, okay, maybe 9 years will be a bit too much for Africa, but how do we get there within 15 years? How do we get there within 20 years? For me, that's the most important thing.